live where you live.
The information discussed on Talkin Money with Jeff Tarbell is believed to be from reliable sources. However, no responsibility is assumed for inaccuracies. No statement made on this broadcast should be construed as a specific recommendation of a particular investment product. Views expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent those of CBS Radio. Use only as directed.
Smiles, everyone. Smiles. And prepare yourself for...
Show me the money!
Ladies and gentlemen, the radio broadcast experience designed to keep your wallet in top condition. It's Talkin Money with Jeff Tarbell.
Talkin Money. Talkin Money.
More money, more money, more money.
And now entering the studio, your guru for fiscal fitness, Jeff Tarbell.
Right. How you doing?
What's happening?
What's happening down there?
Oh, just looking at your buddy in the window.
Is that right? This is why I have to take a quarterly break from coming down there. I need some kind of visual distraction from me, and he's a visual distraction, all right. How are you doing? Welcome in. We are live. John Fotorero down in the Sacramento KHTK studio, and I am hanging out here in my studio in Granite Bay. I've got to book out of here as soon as we're done, and it's just going to save me a little bit of drive time, so I apologize for that, Johnny. How are you? Let's start off the same way we always do, because I know he gets all testy if he doesn't get his 15 seconds of fame there. So and John, I'm going to take a wild-ass guess that he's wearing some sort of a soccer shirt. And
Wrong. You are incorrect.
Oh, so you got to go with the odds. You have to go with the odds. So what is on your Nordstrom attire today there, Christopher Laud?
I'm actually wearing my KHTK polo.
Oh.
Feeling
Feel like a homer today?
He's got his corporate attire on.
Hey, John, did you get a KHTK polo? John?
I did not.
No, I didn't either. Mine's probably in the mail with yours, John. So we'll keep an eye out for those. But, well, first of all, how do they look before we ask for
They look pretty nice, actually.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, Chris, I digress. Go ahead with your 15 seconds there.
Well, I think everyone knows what I'm going to talk about.
Of course we do. We should just record this, and then if you're sick, we can just replay it.
Hey, I would like to say, though, that I was the one saying, like, hey, the Sacramento Kings are staying in Sacramento because we have the greatest mayor and the greatest ownership in the world, and it looks like I'm going to be saying the same thing about our soccer group. So this story came out. The Kings ownership group is looking to purchase the Republic if they get an MLS team, and they are coming out in September to take a look at the city, and it sounds like almost exactly what was happening with the NBA. So hopefully they come here, they like what they see, and Sacramento will be getting an MLS team pretty soon.
Yeah, so you said something there that I hadn't picked up before. Do you think that sales contingent only on getting a pro team, or they think they're going to buy the Republic either way?
I think they would need assurances that it's an MLS team.
Gotcha.
Like they haven't come out and said that, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they're looking to get an MLS team, and it would have to do with getting a stadium here, and that would mean that the Kings ownership would basically own all the professional sports in Sacramento, which would be pretty awesome. Which
is not uncommon. If you look around, a lot of the MLS teams are owned by, and for some reason the NBA owners seem to have a nice tie to the soccer. So
well, it goes perfect with the Kings because the seasons kind of interchange with each other. So as soon as the basketball season starts ending, that's when MLS starts. As soon as MLS ends, that's when the NBA season starts.
So I guess we could make the new arena a little bigger, and we could just do soccer indoors. So that would be probably throw.
Might be a little late for that. Weren't they blowing that up on Friday?
Throw a few plans off there. Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Who would have guessed? And you would have been right either way. I mean, you could have guessed a year ago that we had no pro team at all, and here we are with the construction of the arena beginning this week, and now some serious discussions. And I hope, from my buddy Warren Smith's perspective, I hope that whatever comes out of it comes out good for him. I'm sure it will, because, frankly, he took a risk there to put something together that he had a vision in, and I certainly didn't. And it's turned out better than anybody could have possibly imagined. So We'll have to get Warren back on, John. I think he came on right before the Republic started, and we'll have to get him on when the things settle down a little bit. And
yeah, definitely. I'm sure he's a bit busy.
Yeah, he's got a few plans probably going on right now. So we'll get back with Warren down the road a little bit too. Well, how are you doing, everybody? Today is Saturday. Lots of news this week. Lots of things going on. I took a little respite from work yesterday and took a bike ride up to Lake Tahoe. Got a chance to check out the Wood Boat Show, which is annually, and I always like to go up there when I can and just take a look, dream a little bit. If I had so much money, I could just have some of it float around there in the wooden form. But
you didn't bring your Bitcoin from the sale of your property?
I did not bring my Bitcoin. I saw that and I actually had that highlighted. I wondered if you were going to come up with that. That wasn't my property. That was
a little different area, but still
close. Yeah, just.
You could probably buy one of those boats with 1.6 million in Bitcoin, couldn't you?
You could. That was off the John's referring to the. Well, go ahead, John. What are you talking about there?
Oh, just a sale up in Truckee, California. I guess a Lake Tahoe property sold Thursday for 1.6 million in Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Martis Camp lot. It actually was actually a piece of dirt. I don't even think there was even a house.
It's just a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.4 acre lot sitting in Martis Camp there.
1.6 million. First of all, that's $1.6 million for a piece of land with nothing on it. That's a good price. And then, the seller took a Silicon Valley buyer's Bitcoin exchange, and I was kind of reading through the process a little bit because I maybe John's got it figured out there a little bit. I still am just baffled by
don't.
No. But it's pretty interesting how that works because obviously the Bitcoin is traded like a currency, like a stock, like anything else that can fluctuate. And what you do, according to the article, there is if Johns wants to sell it to me, he generates an invoice, and I have 15 minutes to create the transaction. So you talk about your long-term escrow. This is a 15-minute. Of course, I'm sure they've done all their investigations in advance, but this is a 15-minute transaction. I have to transfer my Bitcoin, equivalent to, in this case, $1.6 million in 15 minutes. Otherwise, the price is recalculated and it goes on again. But yeah, right out of the Wall Street Journal. That only references. Let's see here. They talked about the house in Bali, which we talked about before, which was $500,000, and then it says here in May a suburban Kansas City home for about $500,000 through Bitcoin. So that they only reference 3 transactions ever for real estate with the Bitcoin. And my question is always this, John. So if I give you $1.6 million in Bitcoins 15 minutes ago, are you immediately cashing that in?
That was my exact question too.
Or are you leaving some in Bitcoin and some in cash? Because they do have there is an exchange rate with U.S. dollars, so there is a way to exchange those out. But so what I don't understand, maybe the Bitcoin person, maybe the Bitcoin buyer, is able to kind of treat that as an exchange. So why wouldn't you, if you're a seller, why wouldn't you say, okay, fine, you got $1.6 million in funny money there. Go ahead and cash that in and write me a check for $1.6 million or wire it to my escrow. So there must be some way. Maybe the Bitcoin person was only into the Bitcoins for $1 million, and he took a ride up to $1.6 million, and so he basically has exchanged it for a piece of land. That's the only thing I can think of is why a seller would cooperate in that, and the other part would be that I can get my money really, really fast if I don't believe in the Bitcoin system.
Yeah,
so,
I think you have to have an inside line on how that all works and what you're going to use it for. It shows here people are buying Lamborghinis, Teslas, things with it. So
yeah,
obviously you got a little cash in your pocket also, and this is probably just a little fun thing to do and see what you can do with it.
Yeah,
2,739 Bitcoins equals 1.6 million, at least at the time of the sale Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, so you could liquidate half. You have to have a lot. You could have a lot of fun with $1.6 million if you're just, particularly if it's coming your way, not going out your way. But anyway, yeah, that was a good article, and I'm glad you picked that up. That was interesting. Go ahead.
Did you also see somebody's taken over on our Goober to outbeat Uber? Did you see Lyft? Lyft?
Is that the company with the Is that the company with the mustaches on the front?
I don't. Is it?
It is.
Okay, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
so
I saw a lot of advertising this past week on being a driver, doing this and that, and.
Well, I did see this, and that's a good lead-in. And John, I got your message. So am I coming across a little staticky on my end there?
Just a little bit.
Okay, it could be sometimes when I
Like
when
right now,
both,
you're perfect. So
when I'm not speaking. I have mastered radio. If I just don't say a word. I think sometimes when we cross over, it jams with the lines a little bit. So I'll try to make sure that we don't cross over a little bit. I did see, actually, I got an email this week. I guess is what it was yesterday, and it was a plea from Uber for me to I wish I'd have printed that out, for me to contact or fill out a something, some kind of a survey or something to help them get the state legislator to not put in place a new provision that would require Uber drivers to carry 20 times the amount of insurance that a typical taxi cab covers. And so, did you see that also, John?
I did. I did.
Yeah. Okay. So that was interesting that there is some move on, obviously, from the taxi groups down at the Capitol to try to push them out a little bit as well. And maybe Uber's not huge in Sacramento yet. Oh, if Chris knows about it, almost everybody knows about it. But certainly in the bigger cities, L.A., San Diego, San Francisco, there would be an outrage from people, I think, if Uber goes away. So
oh yeah, definitely going back to a taxi after you're living the life in Uber.
It's like having your own driver. I'm sorry, it's just an interesting thing. So speaking of what's going on down in the Capitol down there, there's three things that came up this week. Uber was the first one. That one that came out that I thought was interesting. The Sacramento Bee did a pretty nice article. When is this from? This was last Sunday. And it is just amazing what I guess it's not. It's people say this show's about money. Money's about everything, and politics is certainly all about money. But the article that came out last week talking about the headline says Dems cash in with big tobacco, I mean Democrats. When you actually look at the chart of who down there was getting money, they were, I'm not going to say maybe not equally because they're not equally in charge between Republicans and Democrats. The Democrats were heavily getting tobacco money, but there was a lot of Republicans in there also. So they were all dipping their finger in the tobacco money. But the article, the three things I pointed out, maybe you didn't realize lately: legislation to ban smoking in public schools, apartment buildings, and state parks and beaches has suddenly withered in committee, and proposals to raise taxes on cigarettes went nowhere. One bill to limit internet sale of electronic cigarettes was also shelved. And then they went on to list all the money that tobacco is now putting out to both sides of the aisle, but in particular in Sacramento because there's more Democrats than Republicans. In the top leadership positions, they were heavily getting the money. So if you are anti-smoking or would like to see smoking not on public schools or in apartment buildings or state parks and beaches, then you probably won't see that because downtown they're getting somewhere between 50 to 100 grand a piece from Big Tobacco to listen to their causes, and apparently it's working. And hey, I'm not blaming Big Tobacco. If they can make an investment and make it work, then I guess that's good for them. The one that bothers me more than that is really this whole bullet train thing. And the governor came out last week and mentioned that he is frustrated that the United States Congress is not going to send him more money for the bullet train, and they're going to. And our governor said that's fine. We'll come out and do it ourselves. The proposal, again, if you remember, is a $68 billion with a B $billion. I call it the train to nowhere. And that is now it looks like it's going to come out to a public vote for bond funding. And that is I guess when the courts came out this week and overturned some other rulings passed and said yes, we can send out a bond fund. Now on the surface, you would say, okay, well that's good, that's fair. We'll put out a vote. Do we want to spend money as Californians on a bond program? And I think why they're so in favor of this is that most people don't read and they don't understand what a bond is. And more importantly, they don't understand that a bond has to be paid back.
Yeah, $68 billion.
$68 billion. So if the voting proposal says, would you like a speed train that goes from A to B, most people would say, sure. I'd like a Bitcoin with my 1.6 million lot, and I'd like a speed train, and I'd like all kinds of stuff. But they don't read.
Right.
for the most part. I mean, it's not in the it's not on the on the voting tab. You have to actually go in and figure out what does that mean. So then, if I'm going to spend $68 billion on a train, that means the money to pay those bonds back comes from somewhere, or it's taken out of something else. And usually, it's all of the above, meaning we're going to have to raise some money, and we're going to have to steal some money from from something else if we don't have enough money to pay our bond, because the bond has to be paid back. And that's the part that I think that people put these bonds on count on, that people don't understand what they're voting for. They're just voting for the shiny penny. They don't realize that it costs $1 to repay for the penny.
Exactly.
And then I note that I did see that they're now pushing the water bill, and I am happy to see that there's at least some discussion there. I mean, if we're going to invest $68 billion or $68 million or 68 cents on something, I'd like to start with water. Just me. Rather than the train or anything. I'd like to get some more water in our state. Now, we can't make it rain, despite politicians' belief that they make the world go round. They can't make it rain, but we could certainly gather more of the rain we get. And so I am anxious to see where the water bond goes this week, and if we get anywhere on that. I don't know that we can. I don't know. Maybe we have to choose between one or the other. So, if you could vote on that, would you rather have water or a train? I'm fairly certain which way that would go. So, any thoughts on that there, Johnny?
Yeah, let's get the water figured out for sure.
And I'll finish our segment with this, then we'll move on. I've got some great other items, and John's got some quiz questions for you too. And by the way, we do have some tickets for the concert at Hellwig, the concert series at Hellwig. We've got 3 tickets to the next concert. You have to look that one up, John. I think it's August 23rd, but I want to say it's a Parrot Head concert. It's coming up, and I've got some Rivercats tickets, and this is the last month, really, of Rivercats regular season baseball, and they're playing a lot at home this week. So this month, if you'd like some Rivercats tickets, we're going to give those away today as well. John, you can take, or Chris, you can take 3 or 4 winners on the Rivercats if you want, and I think we got at least one pair of concert tickets.
Yeah, and August 23rd at Hellwig is the Parrot Heads, Garrett Wilkin and the Parrot Heads.
Okay, so I know I at least have 4 tickets for that, but we'll try to give away some Rivercats today too. So John, I don't know if you caught this, and I am. This is how up to speed I am on a number of things. Last night was the first episode I've ever watched of Breaking Bad, and it came out in 2008. I am just about caught up to, and I watched episode 1 and 2, and really I wanted to keep going. I'm excited to keep watching. I finally got the Netflix thing figured out on our TV. So in the spirit of Breaking Bad, this is fascinating. A fairly well-known, if not extremely well-known, methamphetamine-producing drug lord out of Mexico City did a couple things that were smart from his perspective. He ponied up to some allegedly governors, sons of governors, mayors, different people to buy their favor or get in their favor, and I'm sure that's probably in Drug Lord 101 handbook. But the smart thing he did is he started videotaping all his meetings with some of these people. I don't know if anybody else caught this, but he's been on the run now for 6 months, and he's been releasing on YouTube and other places his videos of different meetings and different get-togethers with high political members or their families and friends. And he's been releasing it online.
Nice.
So while the government's chasing him down, they're arresting sons and governors and mayors and all these other people too who have had ties to him. So he is. I'm sure they'll probably eventually catch him. Maybe not. But he's going to make sure that all of the government folks with their hands out in the meantime get caught first. And so it is a pretty right out of the. No, I guess I haven't seen Breaking Bad far. I don't know. Right out of the movie theater. The people that were taking the cash down there from the drug lord are going down with him. So be careful who you take your money from, I guess, if you're in the politics there. That means that's the end of the first break there. We'll get a couple. We got some phone lines open today, too, if you want to jump in. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. I know we're kind of rolling around obscurely, this should be the name of the show.
Normal.
Just obscure. We have no idea. John's got some quiz questions. Is our text line working by any chance, John?
It's up.
It's up. Okay, so 441140 is our text line. If you want to text us there. And we'll give away, hey, Chris, let's do, in this first break, let's do at least 3 pair of Rivercats tickets and 1 pair of the Parrot Head. Is it Parrot Head, John? Is that right?
Yes.
Parrot Head, the Concert at Hellwig series, which is August 23rd, so make sure you can go to that. John's got a quiz question for you, so what's on your mind there, big boy?
Well, I was going to start off with, this Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. How many women are trying out for the 36 spots?
Yeah.
And,
you can do that like an informal quiz question.
I kind of thought that was interesting. So if you want to text in, so there's 36 spots for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. It just seems football's back, it's coming, and all the time the Dallas cheerleaders come up. Even though you have all your Dallas haters, but the Dallas cheerleaders, I've never heard anybody hating on them. So how many? If you want to text in for some tickets, this is not the original quiz question, but how many women are trying out for the 36 spots on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders?
Is it women only, by the way? That seems kind of discriminatory.
Yes, it is discriminatory, and yes, they are women.
Okay. So that's the unofficial John quiz question, he will pick a select a winner from that on his own down there and give them some Rivercats tickets.
You can text in at 441140 for that. And for our actual quiz question, first one of the day is on an average daily basis, the United States Post Office delivers 2.2 million packages for one specific client. So out of all, I don't know how many the total is, but 2.2 million packages for this one specific client. Who is that client?
That's about 30% of their daily production. So that's almost a third.
Almost a third goes to one client.
Maybe it was this methamphetamine guy from Mexico. He's kind of having to go postal now. So the U.S. Postal Service delivers a little over 2 million packages a day for one client. Okay, and that's about a third of their volume. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us. You can text John at 441140. Or you can go with Quiz B question, maybe they're not all Dallas women. How many women try out to be on the Dallas cheerleaders? They only pick 36?
36 this year.
36. So I'm going to guess it's going to be at least more than 38 trying out for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Your question, this is a flexible option day. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. This is Talkin' Money.
And we're going to be
right back, Jack.
Talkin' money.
Well, alrighty then. We're back to Talkin' Money with Jeff Tarbell.
Right. How you doing?
Doing good. The text line lit up there for a little bit.
Yeah. Was it all Dallas cheerleader stuff, or did you get
a little mix? I think Brian wanted some Rivercats tickets. He was the first one I saw on the text line. So.
Which question was he answering?
He was answering the U.S. Postal Service sending 2.2 million pieces of mail to who, to which client, and the answer
for which client?
For which client?
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. What was the answer?
So the answer is FedEx.
Ooh.
FedEx. So Brian out of Elk Grove was the first to trigger that. And then on the text line, the 916-934 number did have the correct answer to the amount of women trying out for the 36 spots. If you want to text back in with your name and address, we can get you some tickets to either Rivercats or Hellwig Winery for the August 23rd Parrots Heads concert. 707, 2,000 women. That's a few too many. But we'll let that kind of ride a little bit. See where that goes.
Okay, so that one's still hanging out there. So it's not 2,000 and it's more than 36.
That's right.
That we're trying out for the. I did find that link, by the way, John, on the Uber thing. So here is if you're interested in it, Senate bill. Senate Appropriations vote AB 2293, a bill that would require companies like Uber to provide 20 times the insurance that taxis must carry in California. The proposed legislation is part of a backroom deal by the insurance industry, taxi companies, and trial attorneys designed to fund more premiums and fees to those already entrenched industries. Of course, that comes from Uber. So if you are not in favor of that, you might look that up. Join Senators Padilla and Liu, L-I-U, and tell the Senate you are not you're in favor of Uber. So there you go. AB 2293. If you're an Uber fan and you want to stand up for that right, you should do that.
Absolutely.
I did note, I looked into this article I did find the article here on the U.S. Postal Service and the FedEx, and UPS uses them also quite a bit. So 30% of the package volume is coming from those agencies. And here's what I'm wondering. Actually, I don't have to wonder. I know. Without even so, UPS or FedEx is charging, let's just say, $1 for their delivery, and they're subbing it out to the U.S. Postal Service for what, 50 cents, 60 cents? I mean, are they making a fairly good override on it? And I'm saying that, not saying that's a bad deal at all. If the U.S. Postal Service is making money and FedEx is getting the job done, then I guess I don't go down and figure out what each line costs the farmer and work it all backwards. I either accept the price or I don't. But you might do a little comparison shopping yourself if your package is going to end up going through the Postal Service. This is a fairly interesting little statistic. Still, 25% of all volume in the first-class mail. And by the way, package volume for the Postal Service has gone up 20%, and first-class mail volume has gone down 21%. So they kind of offset. But the problem is the vehicles. They have 140 to 200,000 mail vehicles that are over 20 years old. So these vehicles aren't set up for packages, I'm guessing is what they're getting at here. And so they're having to kind of maybe retool their equipment a little bit. But if you're in the U.S. Postal Mail Service truck business, you may have a pickup here a little bit because they have 200,000 vehicles. Just 20 years in service has got to be just. I mean, think about how many miles those things have had on. They got to be near done. So we'll see what happens there. But we
have a question here on the text line, and I've seen a lot of this, and you might have a good answer. I know Terry Moore has a great answer, but hey, Jeff, bought my home almost a year ago with your help. Thank you. Since then, I've been getting offers in the mail several times per week offering low rates, covering all costs, including the VA funding fee. How is this possible? Is there a catch? Have you come across that much, Jeff?
Yeah, and it seems like the veterans get targeted more, and the FHA would probably be second.
Yep.
And then you get your conventional. And the reason being is that the FHA and the VA, the government loans, have a higher premium. They have a higher value on the market, and so they people look for them, and they're easier to target, right? So I mean, because generally when a loan records, it'll say VA fund or VA financing or FH. Sometimes it'll say FHA, but the conventional ones, it's kind of hard to tell what they are.
Right.
So they're an easier marketing target. And I always tell everybody, remember, this isn't somebody that knows anything about you or your situation. They're just blanket marketing and hoping that they'll send out 100 and one will call. So they don't know anything about your situation. But yeah, I see that all the time. Is it possible? The VA streamline refinance, the FHA streamline refinance, those things. If rates are down, it's possible to get a lower rate. Remember, if they're going to pay your funding fee for you, does that mean they're going to finance it for you, which is kind of how VA does it anyway, or are they going to bump up your rate higher to pay the cost for you, in which case it kind of wipes out the savings a little bit? So,
yeah. I had a client that called. They were getting VA at 2 3/8, and I said, there's no way. It's not even possible. There's no arm like that. So anyway, she called, and of course kind of said, well, fill out an application and we'll get back to you. And she kept asking questions. And there is no VA rate at like 2 3/8. It's just not out there. So they're probably swinging that into, do you have equity now? We can put you on an ARM product and things like that.
Well, remember, a number of these places that are emailing you or calling you aren't even lenders. A lot of them are just selling leads to other lenders.
Right.
So if they're looking, what they're trying to do is get a basic application and basic information from you, so they can sell it to somebody else. And in many cases, they'll sell it somewhere between 5 to 10 times over and over. So, I always be very, very cautious who you're speaking to and what information you give them. And, and understand that you may be just going on a marketing list for something else too. And I'm always very, very honest with people. If someone has a phenomenal deal and I look at it and say, you know what, that does look legit, and it's just something we don't offer, or it's just a phenomenal deal, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
you know what?
definitely.
That's a hell of a deal.
Lock it in, make sure it's all right.
Don't call anybody else and drive over there and do it. And if there's someone out there who's giving away the farm, then go get it. But I would say 99.9% of the time, it's BS.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. But they're just trying to, to throw stuff against the wall and either switch you into something else or, like I said, sell your information on to somebody else, and they'll get another lender who thinks they've got you on the hook, and they'll sell that around a few times.
Yeah, and it's very difficult online or through the mail to compare apples to apples. It's about impossible.
I know it's impossible because it takes me 10, 15 minutes when I have it all written out in front of me from somebody else just to go by and compare apples for apples and figure it out. And I do this all day.
Right.
Just to try to figure out what are they saying, what are they offering, and so to try to do it over the phone or with half the information is nearly impossible. And that's a phenomenal lead-in because I got this email this week. By the way, if you want to email me during the week and for any purpose other than just to say hello, even if you want to say hello or shut up, Jeff at jefftarbell.com. This came in this week. This was from Bill in Elk Grove. Hey, Jeff, is comparing the APR the best way to compare mortgage rates?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. It comes. I printed out something. I'm redoing my. You have to redo your 8 hours of continuing education for, each year. And I'm starting on it now a little bit too. And so I printed out the page that talks about finance charge and APR. And the short answer is that is the concept. I mean, ideally, when they came up with annual percentage rate APR. And I want to say that it started actually in the car financing business because there was so many little fees and things that were thrown in there that it was hard for people to figure out what are they really paying. So as a quick lesson for those of you who are confused about APR and note rate, and I don't blame you, the note rate, so when John says, okay, the VA loan today is 4%, that's the note rate, the rate at which you're paying back on the loan. It's actually typed on your note. 4%. But the APR may be 4.375, let's say, for an example, because there are other charges and fees in there that you may be paying. For example, on the VA loan, VA has a funding fee. You don't write a check for it because they put it in your loan for you, but it's a cost. A loan that has mortgage insurance, a loan that has closing costs that are associated with it. And here's the challenge with trying to compare APRs. Nobody seems to do it the same way.
Right.
Fees paid by third party, not counted. This comes off my little sheet. Sometimes fees paid in advance of closing may not be counted. They should be, in my opinion, like an appraisal or credit report.
Right.
So people can fudge with what is calculated in the APR. In fact, if you look at the software programs that most of us use, there's a little box on the right that says click here if you want it included in the APR or not. So I could list the fee, but just click the little button and say, don't put that in the APR. And so it's very difficult to compare APRs, I think.
Yeah, not to drive into this too deep, but I had one this week where same scenario, guy was shopping it around, and LA lender was giving him an eighth better in rate, $3,500 less in fee. I told him, go, run fast, get it done, make sure they can handle a purchase transaction. They sent him another good faith, and it seemed to change a little bit. And then we reviewed deeper. The other lender let off all the title and escrow fees. I said, well, once you determine who the title company is, then we'll add those in.
Yeah.
So I had to tell the buyer, every purchase transaction is going to have title, escrow, no matter who's doing what, it's going to be there. And so that was a big difference. And it ended up coming out that our fees were less than that. So, but yeah, you got to be careful. I mean, they do not, even with getting a GFE, a good faith estimate, you cannot, it's still not apples to apples, depending on who's putting it together.
Yeah, and that is the trick. I mean, a lot of them don't want it to be apples for apples. And here's the other thing about the APR that I don't like. So John was just referring to a VA streamline refinance, or what we used to call like a no-cost loan, which by law you can't call them no cost anymore. But so you have a loan that has a note rate of 4%. Let's just say 4.25%. And at 4.25%, the lender doesn't charge you any fees at all because they're crediting you back money to offset the fees. The APR generally does not take into consideration the lender credit back.
Right.
So really, on a loan that has no fees at all to you on a net cost basis, if the rate was 4.25, the APR should be 4.25, but it's not. So I always tell people, forget about the APR.
Yeah.
Just forget about it. Get me, and I'll give you the actual rate you're paying interest on and a line-by-line cost estimate of every single fee. So your rate's 4, you added up every fee, It was $2,500. Okay, now compare that to somebody else's. At 4%, are they charging you $2,000 or $3,000 or $2,500? And get the actual number. That is a whole lot more meaningful to everybody than what is this floating APR that tends to float.
Yes. And
nobody seems to know what's included or not included. Like John said, I didn't put any title or escrow fees in there. Well, even if you paid cash, you'd pay title and escrow fees. Right. So
yeah, and the same thing, like all the buyers now, getting seller credits. The APR does not account for a 3% seller credit. So you're looking at all these fees that you're not paying, and you're getting a credit back. So it can be very convoluted.
Yeah, well, it's maybe it's meant to be that way. I don't know.
Jeff, are you going to get into the changes on Fannie and what happened there and what's happening?
I do. I have that.
We have a listener that is on the edge of his seat since last week, waiting to hear about the changes.
Okay, and I'm looking at our time here too. We have to take one more break too, don't we?
Yes.
So let's do this. Let's get into your quiz question, John. And I've got all the Fannie stuff right in front of me here. I'm going to cover that today too. Also, a couple things came up with Aquin and some other notes that are interesting there too. But yeah, I will cover. I'll do that ASAP. First thing when we come back after the break. Our phone number, if you want to jump in today, 339-1140, 800-920-1140. You can text Johnny down there at 441140. And I think we have another quiz question. Do you have another quiz question?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
So the deadly blast last week in China.
That was
crazy. Killed 75 people, injured 185 in a Kushan metal facility. Is a subcontractor of which U.S. company?
Yeah, Kushan Zhongrong Metal Production Company is a subcontractor to one of the biggest U.S. companies in the world.
Right.
And that was I think they said that, I don't know, something in the dust or something exploded, but yeah, that was ugly. But they're related to, they're not related. They're a subcontractor of one of our U.S. corporations. Who is it? 339-1140. If you know the answer to that, you can text us at 441140, or you can just make one up. Remember, if you're texting us and you want to win a prize, give us your name and address, or your name and phone number so Chris can call you back and get your address. We've got to take one more quick break, and when we get back, I will talk to you about all the changes that are coming up with Fannie Mae, and some of them are very, very helpful to you. Some of them maybe not so much.
Correct.
We'll cover all that as well. That's John Fotorero down in Sacramento. My name's Jeff Tarbell. Take a quick break. We're going to be
right back, Jack.
Talkin' money.
And we're back to Talkin' Money. And here's Jeff Tarbell.
Right.
Yeah.
Busy day today. I don't know what's going on here.
Lots going on. We got a couple other questions here too. So
yeah, okay. Did you get it? Well, first off, I promise we'll get everything. Did we get an answer to our quiz question?
We did.
Okay.
The answer.
Yeah, go ahead. The question was that there was an explosion in China at a metals production facility and killed quite a few people and injured a lot more. Was a subcontractor of who?
General Motors.
Oh, dang. Those guys have not had a good streak lately.
They have not.
Is it just me, or does it all tie into them when they became government motors, and as soon as that it just kind of went downhill from there, and now they were the supplier of their metal wheels or something like that, and although General Motors really had nothing to do with it, they're just buying from this subcontractor. It's just it's another bruise to their face, for General Motors. They just have not had a good run here lately. So anyway, okay, we got some winners for that. So go ahead. Do you have some calls there, John, you want to get to, or what do you want to do there?
No, just a quick question. They have a rental property at 8.25% with approximately 15 years left. Are rates and fees any good right now, worth a refi? Absolutely, for many reasons. You could probably go with a 15-year fixed at about 4 7/8 with no cost and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, definitely look into it.
On a rental, it's going to run a little higher, but a 15-year fixed might not be that high. 8.25 almost makes me believe that there was some credit issue there, at least in the past when it happened.
Or it's been sitting on it for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that could be too. Yeah, rates. This has been a interesting. There was a lot of activity in the market this week, and most of it was not good as far as the stocks go. It wasn't until almost Friday afternoon that the stock market finally turned around a little bit. And I think as I'm reading it, and remember, neither John and we're not stockbrokers, and that's not the market we're in. But We play one on TV here. But it appeared like there was a lot of covering for people who thought maybe the market would really take a dive, and they had to kind of cover some of those bets they made early on. I guess Russia said they will maybe straighten up a little bit, and that seemed to help the market. Bonds were doing great all week, and then Friday they settled a little bit too. But the bonds, the lowest yield they've been in almost 14 months, so rates improving a little bit.
Which was crazy from last week because apparently the refi market was done.
Yeah, well, it's just if you don't like the news, wait another day.
That's right.
It will change again. I did see just quickly there was a fairly good article in the Wall Street last week talking about mortgage standards are easing, and I'm looking around. I look at the headlines. I said, okay, which mortgage standards are we talking about? Because it certainly isn't anything on the residential side, and in fact, they were talking about commercial and industrial loans getting almost to a point of concern for some of the regulators that they're making loans that are a little too loose. Here are things that were hampering the residential mortgages. Increased costs associated with handling defaulted mortgages. Number one, big change recently, how you have to handle people that are in default, the length of time it takes to do things, and that puts a cost on all of us. Mortgage putbacks, which is basically one lender down the line calling the guy before him and saying, hey, look, this loan wasn't good, I want my money back. That is still going on, by the way, from loans as far back as 05 and 06. Think about that now for a minute, getting a call 9 years later, 8 years later, 7 years later for a loan you had nothing to do with, and has been gone. Now they want their money back 8 years later. That puts a pucker factor into the mortgage business for everybody, and a cost to you and I as the borrower, and then of course consumers with too high a debt and damaged credit. I've seen more damaged credit recently than I've seen in a while, and I don't know why it is, other than I think that maybe there's a new set of buyers coming in to the market, and they're intrigued by prices and rates, but not exactly up to speed on what it takes to qualify, which is fine. You got to start somewhere. And I tell all the first-time buyers that come in, before I even talk to you or look at you, if I tell you it's going to be a year from now, don't be discouraged. Not because you're a bad person. It just means either your job changed or something that we have to do a little work on. But you know what? Might as well get started today, because you're probably going to want to own a house in a year anyway. So so go ahead, Johnny, on your Fannie Mae discussion there. You had someone who was looking for some information. I'll let you fire off on that.
Yeah, so I'll just get started. A couple different changes. Currently, 2 years after a short sale, you can purchase a home using conventional financing with 20% down. So you can go conventional, 20% down, buy a home. That is going away August 16th. So that will no longer, it's going to go to 4 years. So that's part A. 4 years is going to be the first time for conventional. 3 years after short sale is going to be the first time for FHA. And then...
And 1 day if you want to use one of the flex programs that are out there.
Correct. There are some alternative programs to that. Another item that came up has to do with a waiting period for mortgage debt discharged through a bankruptcy. So scenario the other day, somebody had a foreclosure 2008. They had filed bankruptcy. The property was in and part of the bankruptcy. So the waiting period on that for conventional was always 7 years.
Yeah, that was hard.
That's a long time. Now that is changing to, what is it, Jeff? 4 years, I believe, right?
Yeah. So they're both going to mirror each other now. So if you remember the logic behind it, so Fannie Mae and to some extent Freddie Mac during the height of the meltdown was trying to encourage people to just not leave the house vacant and leave and let it foreclose. That was number one, because the houses were getting stripped and damaged, and then nobody gets any money. So they were trying to encourage people to short sell the house, and so their policy was, hey, if you'll do a short sale, hang with us and do the short sale process, keep the house in good condition, we'll let you come back in 2 years if you put down 20%. And I'm not sure how well they always explain that part of it, but anyway. And if you let it go to foreclosure, we're going to stick you to 7 years. Now that part is still true. I mean, if you just flat out let your house go to foreclosure, you're still stuck with 7 years on a conventional financing.
Yes.
Again, FHA is more like 3. I think, are they 3 after a short foreclosure? I have to look that up. I think it is 3. Conventional, some of the conventional flex products, some of the, the investor product directly you can do even after a couple days. But you're looking at different rates and 20% down. But so what they've done now, they've said, okay, that short sale waiting period, which was 2 years up until next week, we're going to move back to 4 years. I don't know the logic behind that, to be honest.
I don't
with you.
either.
I don't know what they were. I don't know why they were doing that. Because there wasn't a lot of people that had 20% down anyway. And so they're moving that back to 4 years. But they're taking the big one. I think that they're taking is the people who were in bankruptcy and surrendered your house. That's the key word. You surrendered your house in bankruptcy. We up until recently have had to go back and pull the address and find out when the house was actually foreclosed on. And John had one, I think, that when the people came in 3.5 or almost 4 years later, it still hadn't been foreclosed.
Yep.
So now, if your paperwork says the house was surrendered in the bankruptcy, your waiting period is also 4 years, regardless of when the bank actually got around to foreclosing on your house. That's huge. There's a bunch of people out there right now who were in that window thinking they had to wait 7 years. Now only had to go 4 years from the bankruptcy discharge date. So that was the good part of the news. The bad part was the short sale went to 4 years also. So if you think that might apply to you, or you have that rings a bell to you, but you're not sure, please give John a call during the week. You can find him at johnfod.com or myself, Jeff at jefftarbell.com. Check us out, and we can help you walk through that a little bit as well. Anything else you're looking to do, there's some phenomenal down payment assistance programs right now. I mean, we've got people getting into a house that qualify for $1,500. I mean,
yep.
You just have to kind of get some good information, and if you want to do that, we'd like to help you. So thank you so much. That music means we got to wrap it up. Have a great Saturday. If you're driving up to Tahoe, enjoy it. It's nice and cool up there, or cooler, I should say. And if you're down here, my grass needs a little bit of cutting. I could use some help, so come on over, and we'll do that. Hey, John, thanks for holding down the fort down there. We'll catch up with you during the week. And you can find us at 338-9400 or jefftarbell.com during the week as well. This show is rebroadcast, or I should say podcast, on our Talkin' Money Facebook page every Monday. We'll see you next week, everybody. Be cool. Aloha.
Talkin' Money.